AI agents are everywhere, automating tasks and making decisions at machine speed. But agents make mistakes. Just one rogue agent can do big damage before you even notice. Rubrik Agent Cloud is the only platform that helps you monitor agents, set guardrails, and rewind mistakes, so you can unleash agents, not risk. Accelerate your AI transformation at Rubrik.com. That's RUBRIK.com.
Hey, Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. Now, I don't know if you've heard, but Mint's premium wireless is $15 a month. But I'd like to offer one other perk. We have no stores. That means no small talk. Crazy weather we're having. No, it's not. It's just weather. It is an introvert's dream. Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, $15 per month equivalent required. New customer offer first 3 months only. Then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See mintmobile.com.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Tesla's third quarter 2025 Q&A webcast. My name is Travis Axelrod, Head of Investor Relations, and I'm joined today by Elon Musk, Vaibhav Taneja, and a number of other executives. Our Q3 results were announced at about 3 p.m. Central Time in the update deck we published at the same link as this webcast. During this call, we will discuss our business outlook and make forward-looking statements. These comments are based on our predictions and expectations as of today. Actual events or results could differ materially due to a number of risks and uncertainties, including those mentioned in our most recent filings with the SEC. We urge shareholders to read our definitive proxy statement, which contains important information about the matters to be voted on at the 2025 annual meeting.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Kilowatt, a podcast about electric vehicles, renewable energy, autonomous driving, and much, much more. My name is Bodhi, and I am your host. And on today's episode, we are going to cover Tesla's Q3 2025. I mean, we could cover the 2024 one, but this time we're going to cover 2025 earnings call. We're going to start off with Elon's opening remarks because this is a long one. So let's go ahead and jump into it. Actually, before we jump into it, I will say that I have edited these clips so that they make sense for the show. Some context might be missing, although I try to keep everything, all the context intact while still editing for time for the show and, kind of the stuff that we talk about. All right. Now, let's listen to Elon's opening remarks.
We're at a critical inflection point for Tesla and our strategy going forward as we bring AI into the real world. I think it's important to emphasize that Tesla really is the leader in real-world AI. No one can do what we can do with real-world AI. I have pretty good insight into AI in general. I think that Tesla has the highest intelligence density of any AI out there in the car. And that is only going to get better. And we're really just at the beginning of scaling at a quite massively full self-driving and robotaxi, and fundamentally changing the nature of transport. I think people just don't quite appreciate the degree to which this will take off. Where it's honestly it's going to be like a shockwave. So it's a because the cars are all out there. We have millions of cars out there that, with a software update, become full self-driving cars, and we're making a couple million a year, and in fact, with the advent of with what we see now as a clarity on achieving full self-driving, unsupervised full self-driving, I should say. I feel confident in expanding Tesla's production. So that is our intent, to expand as quickly as we can our future production. So I was reticent to do that until we had clarity on achieving unsupervised full self-driving. But at this point, I feel like we've got clarity, and it makes sense to expand production as fast as we reasonably can.
All right. So when I first heard Elon's opening remarks, I actually thought that it was AI generated. Now I've listened to it a couple of times. I don't think it was AI generated, but he was definitely reading from something. It's not the typical Elon opening remarks that we get. They're much more constrained. But in that first part of the opening remarks, and his opening remarks were fairly short. Okay, let's dive into some of the things that Elon says. Obviously, he starts off with Tesla AI and full self-driving in this clip. Whenever Elon says people don't appreciate, this is what I hear. This is how I interpret that in my head, is that I think this is really important and no one else thinks it's important. So people don't appreciate to the degree, or people don't understand, or people still don't get X, Y, or Z. And maybe in some cases that's true, but in other cases, it might just mean that you're wrong and people don't value what you value. And the people who buy cars don't value the things that you value. And that's okay. Like sometimes people need to be shown what the future holds. And sometimes those things never come to fruition. It's just the way it is. In terms of a software update and millions of cars now are unsupervised full self-driving. That's probably true. It's at the lower end of millions for sure, because many of those cars do not have the hardware required. And we might talk about this later, but Tesla's, we will talk about later. It's later. We'll talk about it later. Anyway, I don't want to spoil it for you. But anyway, the hardware 3 cars are not going to be unsupervised full self-driving. They might be unsupervised full self-driving if they're upgraded, the hardware's upgraded. But as of right now, they're just not going to be that. And then he says, with the clarity of achieving unsupervised full self-driving, I feel confident in expanding production. My question is what does that mean exactly? Are you talking about expanding the production of the cars that you already build? Because that kind of seems like market forces determine that. I would assume that you're talking about new future vehicles, but that, still, it's a very vague statement. It might mean expanding production of Cybercab, but you're not producing anything except for the current vehicles you're producing. So I'm not 100% sure what that means. Next up, we're going to talk about Tesla Energy. Oh, and you know what? I will say there are some things that Elon talked about. I did take some of these opening remarks and mix them around a little bit, because Elon started off by talking about full self-driving and AI, and then he jumped into energy, and then he jumped into Optimus, and then back into energy, and at some point in time back into full self-driving, and then back to Optimus. Like it was kind of all over the place. So I put the topics in order, so that way I thought it flowed a little bit better. All right. Next up, Tesla Energy.
We're also making huge making a huge impact on the energy sector with battery storage. So with both the Powerwall and especially with the Megapack, we are dramatically improving the ability to generate more energy from the grid. So let me sort of talk a little bit about that, which is if you look at total U.S. energy capability, for example, there's roughly a terawatt of continuous power available in the U.S., but the average usage over a 24-hour cycle is only half a terawatt because of the big difference between day and night usage. If you buffer the energy with batteries, you can effectively double the energy output of the United States just with batteries, building no incremental power plants. And it's very difficult to build power plants. So they take a long time. There's a lot of permitting, and it's not an industry that's used to moving fast. So we see the potential there for Tesla battery packs to greatly improve the energy output per year for any given grid, U.S. or otherwise.
I think this sounds amazing. I don't know enough about the, energy industry. I don't know enough to know if this is true or not true, but it seems reasonable. Like if a nuclear power plant or, heaven forbid, a coal plant, if they're creating energy and that energy has nowhere to go and it just evaporates into the ether and isn't stored anywhere, that seems reasonable. All right, our next clip is about Mega Pack 4.
On the Mega Pack front, we unveiled Mega Block, Mega Pack 3. We also have exciting plans for Mega Pack 4. Mega Pack 4 will incorporate a lot of the a lot of what is normally in a substation, and be able to output at probably 35 kilovolts directly. So this greatly improves our ability to deploy Megapack because it's not dependent on building a substation up through 35 kV for Megapack 4. So that'll be next. That's the engineering priority for Megapack.
Okay, so I'm going to combine this with a story that I was kind of sitting on because I knew that the Tesla earnings call was coming up. This is in no way a direct comparison to what Elon just said. I just want to make this clear. In Peoria, Arizona, a few weeks ago, an SRP is like at 71st and Northern. There was a substation, and that belongs to SRP, Salt River Project. And one of the battery packs lit up or caught on fire, just like it did in that, was it Bullhead City or Boulder City in Nevada that we talked about a couple of weeks ago. One of the things, and I'm sure Tesla's working on this because I genuinely don't think they want these things to catch on fire, but one of the things that would be nice is for some sort of internal fire suppression system that can be hooked up to the facility. So when this happens, maybe it can be stopped sooner. Maybe there's got to be something that they can do to kind of help pull this when these things catch on fire. Because really, nobody was hurt in any of the battery fires, or the two battery fires that we're talking about. But it does seem like there's not a lot to do except for spray a ton of water. And when I say a ton of water, the Peoria fire, just looking at the aerial footage, and I'm sure initially they probably had more lines on it than this, but they had 4 master streams probably flowing between 750 and 1,200 gallons a minute. It's hard to tell from the thing, but from the pictures, but they weren't like fully flowing. And for that, we're looking at, we'll say 1,000 times 4, and then 4,000 times however long they have to be out there. And they're not putting water directly on the battery pack that's on fire, the mega pack that's on fire. They're putting water on the surrounding mega packs to kind of keep them cool, because the one that's on fire, that one's being written off, but the ones that are surrounding it, those are the ones that are trying to be saved. So again, I feel confident that Tesla's probably working on some sort of way for this to work so that they don't want these headlines, but just kind of something to throw in there. Because again, I meant to talk about it earlier this week, but it's just been one of those weeks. So anyway, on the positive side about the Mega Pack 4, I do think it's really cool. I've had the opportunity to be in a lot of these substations and kind of see what goes on there, and get tours from the different power companies. And they're really amazing what they do there. In a lot of cases, if something goes up in a substation, there's a lot of like, let's not flow water immediately until we know exactly what's going on, because we don't want to kill anybody, and generally there's nobody there. So All right. But cool, mega pack for most of what's in a substation all in one pack. I think that's really cool. I think that's really innovative. Now we're going to listen, or we're going to hear Elon give us an Optimus update.
We're also on the cusp of something really tremendous with Optimus, which I think is likely to be, or has potential to be, the biggest product of all time. And it's a difficult project, and it's worth noting that it's not like it's just automatic. I'm unaware of any robot program by Ford or GM or any of our U.S. sort of car companies. People I think maybe think of Tesla as a car company. We mostly make cars and battery packs, but so it's not like it's not just like an obvious wall off a log thing to make Optimus, but we do have the ingredients of real world AI and exceptional electrical and mechanical engineering capabilities and the ability to scale production, which I don't think anyone else has all of those ingredients.
Okay, so making the claim that something is the biggest product of all time is vague, very vague, but also like, what are you comparing it to? Like, there's a lot of different products. So I asked ChatGPT, I said, what would be considered the biggest product of all time? And this is what ChatGPT had to say. First of all, the many different categories. It depends on what you're measuring it against, obviously. But the Apple iPhone, over $2 trillion in cumulative revenue since 2007. $2 trillion. Not only did it transform phones, but also computing, media, and photography. Next up, the 1966 Toyota Corolla. I should say the Toyota Corolla. It's been around since 1966. They've sold more than 50 million Toyota Corollas since that time, and it's the best-selling car ever. Coca-Cola is recognized by 90% of the world's population, which is successful branding. I've been lucky enough to be a lot of different places in the world, and, you can always get a Coke. The Microsoft Windows defined the personal computer era and remains foundational to billions of devices. So that's the first one, the iPhone and the Corolla, were by revenue. The Coca-Cola and Microsoft Windows by cultural impact. And then you have by technology influence. So the internet, you could argue that the internet, pretty successful, pretty big product. Not only that, you have the transistor, which is also a really big deal. The transistor underpins every, or nearly, if not every, modern electronic device. So yeah, so that's the technological influence. By reach or adoption, Facebook and Meta, they have over 3 billion active users. Android iOS installed on more than 3 billion devices. So I guess it depends on what your definition of is in this situation. But no, the Optimus robot is not going to be the biggest product of all time because we don't know how you're measuring that. So I guess yes, it could be the biggest product of all time, depending on how you're measuring it. If you're measuring it against current at-home robots, 100%. If you're measuring it against, industry robots, yeah, maybe. But that's just such a vague statement to make about Optimus. I think Optimus is going to be cool. Don't get me wrong. I would really have to feel comfortable with where Tesla's heading as a company to want to buy one. At one point in time, it was a no-brainer. If it was under $20,000, that would be something that would seriously be considered for my house for a variety of different reasons, most of which I don't like to clean, but I do because I don't like a dirty house more than I don't like to clean. But if, you know, I'd have to feel comfortable that whoever is in, whatever robot I put in my house, that information is staying in my house and we're not uploading pictures of my family to some internet, to some database so that it can be trained on XAI or something like that. That would make me feel a little weird. Not to say that Tesla won't fix that problem and make me feel comfortable. I'm just saying right now, I don't feel super confident about it. But I do think it's awesome. So if I had a business and I thought Optimus would be good for my business, I'd certainly give it a try, just to see. All right. Elon, again, is going to give us a little bit more information on Optimus.
We look forward to unveiling Optimus V3, probably in Q1. I think it'll be ready for to show off, and that I think is going to be quite remarkable. It won't even seem like a robot. It'll seem like a person in a robot suit, which is kind of how we started off with Optimus. But it'll seem so real that you'll need to poke it, I think, to believe that it's actually a robot. And obviously, the real world intelligence we've developed for the car, most of that transfers to Optimus. So it's a very good starting point. In conclusion, we're excited about the updated mission of Tesla, which is sustainable abundance. So going beyond sustainable energy to say sustainable abundance is the mission, where we believe with Optimus and self-driving that you can actually create a world where there is no poverty, where everyone has access to the finest medical care. Optimus will be an incredible surgeon, for example. And imagine if everyone had access to an incredible surgeon. So I think there's, of course we make sure Optimus is safe and everything, but I do think we're headed for a world of sustainable abundance, and I'm excited to work with the Tesla team to make that happen.
Okay. I feel like I'm being ultra negative here, and I don't want to be, but listen, I've already stated how much I don't like the sustainable abundance stuff. That is a very vague statement without anything backing it up. Like, Tesla cannot, on its own, create sustainable abundance. There's just no way. There are too many stakeholders that need to be on board to make that happen. We are always going to have pockets in the world where there are people who try to put other people underneath their thumb and keep them down. It's just, I do not foresee a world in the next 200 years where that doesn't happen. Hopefully we will evolve where we can all get along and people can just do the things that they like to do, and everybody just moves on and doesn't make everything into an argument. But we don't live in that world. And I just, the more I hear Elon talk about this nonsense, the more it feels like he's just trying to be like, I'm going to get $1 trillion in stock. But if I get this $1 trillion in stock, you're never going to have to want for anything. It feels very culty. It feels very much like, hey, come on in, sit down, we'll feed you a meal. Oh, by the way, did you know that our dear leader is commuting with all of the gods and aliens? Oh, you didn't? Oh, well, sit right here and listen. All you got to do is vote vote for sustainable abundance, and it will come to you. I don't know. It seems culty to me. Also, the way I explained it definitely comes off culty because I did it on purpose. So keep that in mind when you're listening to this. V3 update sometime in Q1 2026. Elon's timelines are flexible, but I wouldn't be surprised if we heard something about V3 Optimus sometime in 2026. I think that would be reasonable. And I'm looking forward to seeing that. I don't really have a problem with robots being my surgeon. I might have a problem with robots that are being marketed as the everything tool to be my surgeon. So we'll have to see where how that goes. I understand that, you can have, you can have maybe a common robot type and then customize it for a specific task. But I want a single task. I want one robot that is single task to be my surgeon. Otherwise, I'm okay with humans.
AI agents are everywhere, automating tasks and making decisions at machine speed. But agents make mistakes. Just one rogue agent can do big damage before you even notice. Rubrik Agent Cloud is the only platform that helps you monitor agents, set guardrails, and rewind mistakes, so you can unleash agents, not risk. Accelerate your AI transformation at Rubrik.com. That's RUBRIK.com.
Skip the gym, not the workout. With Hydro, you get a full-body workout in just 20 minutes, hitting 86% of your muscles in one smooth, low-impact motion. And now there's the new Hydro Arc, Hydro's most advanced rower yet. Arc introduces Hydrometrics, tracking your power, endurance, and precision every time you row, so you can actually see your progress. Go to Hydro.com and use code ROW to get $100 off any Hydro rower, including Arc. That's HYDROW.com, code ROW.
Mint is still $15 a month for premium wireless. And if you haven't made the switch yet, here are 15 reasons why you should. 1, it's $15 a month. 2, seriously, it's $15 a month. 3, no big contracts. 4, I use it. 5, my mom uses it. Are you playing me off? That's what's happening, right? Okay, give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, $15 per month equivalent required. New customer offer first 3 months only. Then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See mintmobile.com.
Taking care of your eyes shouldn't be a hassle. That's why Warby Parker is a one-stop shop for all your vision needs. Our prescription glasses and sunglasses are expertly crafted and unexpectedly affordable. Stop by a nearby store or use our app to virtually try on frames and get personalized recommendations. Did we mention we offer eye exams and take vision insurance too? For everything you need to see, head to your nearest Warby Parker store or visit warbyparker.com today. That's warbyparker.com.
All right, next up, I guess not all of these were in order because I have a full self-driving version 14 update from Elon I should have put at the beginning. But here we go. Elon, how's version 14 going?
With version 14 of the of self-driving, which people, you can see the reactions of people online. They're quite amazed. Actually, anyone in the US can get version 14 if they just go and select, I want the advanced software in their car. So if you're listening right now and you'd like to try it out, just go in settings and say, I want the advanced software, and you will get version 14.
Unless you have a hardware 3 vehicle, or heaven forbid a hardware 2 vehicle, then that's not going to happen. Everybody who's saying this stuff online, most of them are influencers who get early access to this kind of stuff because they say nice things about the company. I don't think that the version 14 is garbage for sure. But if you have hardware 3, for instance, you're like stuck on 12.6 or something like that. Later in the earnings call, they're going to talk about upgrading hardware 3 vehicles to 14 plus or 14. What did they call it? I can't remember. We'll get there. We'll talk about it then. But really it's just whatever they can fit of hardware 14 features onto hardware 3. Version 14 features they can fit in hardware 3, but we'll have to see what that actually looks like. All right, so now we'll go to Vivhev Taneja. I know I say his first name wrong, but he's Tesla's CFO, and he's going to give us a few updates. I didn't include his whole update, just the parts that were relevant to this show. All right, let's go ahead and listen in on how many people have actually paid for full self-driving.
On the FSD adoption front, we've continued to see decent progress. However, note that total paid FSD customer base is still small, around 12% of our current fleet. We're working with regulators in places like China and EMEA to obtain approvals so that we can get FSD in those regions as well.
From what I can find, Tesla has they've sold around 6.5 million cars. Let's round that up to 7 million to be generous. Now, some of those cars are in markets where FSD isn't available. So, 12% of the fleet, you take that like 7 million, that's like 840,000 people. But that's 840,000 people in the United States, Canada. He mentioned that they're trying to get FSD approval in China, but on Tesla's official website, it says that it's available in China. I do know that China kind of made Tesla scale back on that a little bit, so I wonder if that's what he's meaning there. But it's available again in U.S., Canada, China, according to Tesla's website, Mexico, Puerto Rico, Australia, and New Zealand. And the last two are the most recent. But my question is that 12% all of the cars? Is that all of the cars? Because hardware 3 came out in 2019, and Tesla famously updated hardware 2 Model 3s to hardware 3, which I think was the right thing to do. But are we including when people, way back when, prior to 2019, when they were paying for like enhanced autopilot, and then they had to pay another like $3,000 on top of that for the full self-driving features that Tesla was offering at that time? Or are we just starting at 2019 and going forward? I don't know. I don't know what that number is, or I don't know how they're calculating that 12%. I did, kind of going down the rabbit hole, I did kind of find some neat information about how much full self-driving has cost in the past. So in April of 2019, when we actually believed that we were going to get full self-driving next year, I'll say me, when I actually believed I was going to get full self-driving in a year or two, $5,000. May of 2019, for the next month, $6,000. August 2019, $7,000, and Elon was very keen on increasing the price, because he said it was going to increase the cars were going to increase in value. So increase the price of full self-driving, because your cars will actually be not a depreciating asset, but an appreciating asset. And so far that hasn't worked out. So July of 2020, $8,000. October 2020, $10,000. January 2022, $12,000. September 2022, $15,000. And then 1 year later, in September 2023, it goes back to $12,000. And in April of 2024, $8,000. So just a nice little recap of what FSD has looked like over the years. Another question I have is, does that 12% include people who are paying $100 a month subscribing, or is that just the people who paid for FSD? The way he said it is paid FSD adoption makes me think that it is the folks that have shelled out any of those numbers between $5,000 and $15,000 for FSD. But that's lower than Tesla would like it. Now, from my understanding is that in order for Elon to receive part of his $1 trillion pay package, Tesla needs something like 10 million FSD, either subscribers or paid or a combination of the two. I'm not 100% sure which that is, but the 10 million, which would be a pretty significant increase over 840,000 if my numbers are to be believed, and they're not. But he has a long way to go, is what I'm saying. And there is a timeline. He needs 10 million before 2035. So my question to shareholders is, are you comfortable with Elon's proposed pay package being tied to something that shareholders don't have access to, which in this case would be the number of full self-driving paid members, subscribers, whatever the mix is? Are you comfortable with that? Shoot me an email, Bodie, BODIE at 918digital.com. All right, next up, we have retail investor questions from say.com.
The first question is, what are the latest robotaxi metrics, fleet size, cumulative miles, rides completed, intervention rates, and when will safety drivers be removed? What are the obstacles still preventing unsupervised FSD from being deployed to customer vehicles?
I'll start off with that, and then Ashok can elaborate. But we are expecting to have no safety drivers in at least large parts of Austin by the end of this year. So within a few months, we expect to have no safety drivers at all, at least in parts of Austin. We're obviously being very cautious about the deployment. So our goal is to be actually paranoid about deployment, because obviously even one accident will be front page headline news worldwide. So it's better for us to take a cautious approach here. But we do expect to have no safety drivers in the car in Austin within a few months. I think that's perhaps the most important data point. And then we do expect to be operating robotaxi in I think about 8 to 10 metro areas by the end of the year. It depends on various regulatory approvals, but you can actually, I think most of our regulatory applications are online. You can kind of see them because they're public information. But we expect to be operating in Nevada and Florida and Arizona by the end of the year. Ashok?
We continue to operate our fleet in Austin without anyone in the driver's seat. And we have covered more than 250,000 miles with that. And then in the Bay Area, where we still have a person in the driver's seat because of the regulations, we crossed more than 1 million miles. And we continue to see that the fleet, robotaxi fleet, works really well. Customers are really happy, and there's no notable issues. On the customer side, customers have used FSD Supervised for a total of 6 billion miles as of yesterday. So that's like a big milestone. And overall, the safety continues to be very good. And as Elon mentioned, we are on track to remove the person from inside the car altogether, starting with Austin.
So I'm just going to play the question again.
What are the latest robotaxi metrics, fleet size, cumulative miles, rides completed, intervention rates, and when will safety drivers be removed? What are the obstacles still preventing unsupervised FSD from being deployed to customer vehicles?
Now, based on that question, I only caught 2 answers. One was that they were going to remove the safety drivers in Austin by the end of the year, but they're being really cautious because they don't want, even the smallest accident to be worldwide headlines. And I can understand that. You should probably also mention maybe we don't want to hurt anybody, but I trying to nitpick somebody when they say something when they're on mic, something that I'm familiar with when other people do it back to me, but not to say that I don't like feedback. But there are times when I'll hear something, why didn't you talk about this? And I didn't even know that those things existed. But anyway, yeah, so, it does make sense. Tesla's under a huge microscope, and it's partly Elon's fault that they're under a huge microscope, but they are. They said 8 to 10 metro areas deployment in, the relative near future. Again, Elon's timelines are always a bit fuzzy. And to kind of illustrate why, those timelines and promises are a bit fuzzy, he predicted around August of 2025, not August of 2024 or 2023 or any time before that, at Tesla's Q2 2025 earnings call, Elon said that the company is actively gaining regulatory approvals for its I'm reading from Yahoo Finance, long-promised the company's gaining regulatory support for its long-promised autonomous ride-hailing service, with several states preparing to launch. Tesla is now targeting coverage to nearly half of the U.S. population by the end of the year. That was a few months ago. And when he said that, we can go back and listen to the tape if we wanted to. This is already a very long podcast. But when he said that, I was like, that's a ridiculous number. I talked about, I had ChatGPT, tell me where the most concentrated places in the United States were and all that stuff. That's just such a ridiculous statement to make. And now we're to 8 to 10 metro cities. And you know what? That's probably reasonable. And I'm okay with that. Half the population of the U.S. by the end of 2025 was a ridiculous statement to make. 8 to 10 metro cities seems optimistic, but you know what? Not unreasonable, not completely unreasonable anyway. All right. They did address the safety driver thing, kind of. You know what? I'm not ready for them to pull safety drivers until they feel comfortable, so let's not push that issue. But the rest of that information would have been nice to know, like how big is the fleet, some metrics, some accident numbers, that kind of thing. I think that was a good question. Let's go ahead and move on to the next one.
The next question is, what is the demand and backlog for Megapack, Powerwall, solar, or energy storage systems? With the current AI boom, is Tesla planning to supply power to other hyperscalers?
Thanks. Demand for Megapack and Powerwall continues to be really strong into next year. We received very strong positive customer feedback on our Megablock product, which will begin shipping next year out of Houston. And we're seeing remarkable growth in the demand for AI and data center applications as hyperscalers and utilities have seen the versatility of the Megapack product to increase reliability and relieve grid constraints, as Elon was talking about. We've also seen a surge in residential solar demand in the U.S. due to policy changes, which we expect to continue into the first half of 2026 as we introduced a new solar lease product. And we also began production of our Tesla residential solar panel in our Buffalo factory, and we will be shipping that to customers starting Q1. The panel has industry-leading aesthetics and shade performance and demonstrates our continued commitment to U.S. manufacturing.
All right. I think they did a much better job of answering that question than the previous one. Still, maybe some things left out, but, I think it's okay, right? The Tesla lease program of the Powerwall, I think I think that's really interesting. The problem is, for my electricity bill right now, if I was to lease, let's say, the 2 Tesla Powerwalls, and I'd probably, for the size of my house, I'd probably need 3, especially because Arizona, and it's 40 years old, but 2 at a minimum, 3 at most, because I already have solar panels on my roof. My electricity bill in the summertime can be between $250 and, on a high note, $300. Now, my friends that have slightly smaller houses than mine, or right around the same size house of mine, they're over $500. They don't have solar. So for me to spend money right now on the Powerwall, even if it's a lease, and it's like a 7-year or 12-year lease, I think. But for me to spend money on the Powerwall for that time, and especially since I'm only planning on being in my house for another 5 or 6 years when my kids graduate, because I don't need a house the size that we have when there's only my wife and I, it doesn't make much financial sense. But from a sticking it to the power company side of things, sometimes I'm willing to do things that aren't good for me financially to make companies like SRP and APS make less money, even if it's just slightly less money, because they want to raise my rates because I have solar and because I'm not contributing to the system. It only works if we all contribute. Meanwhile, we have data centers going in here for like AI and a bunch of other stuff in the valley that are using tons of water and tons of electricity. And on the news, and who knows who's to be blamed, but on the news, they're saying our electricity rates are going up because of these data centers and how everything kind of gets shared out amongst folks using the grid. So, yeah, on one side, I doesn't make much financial sense, but on the other side, for the Powerwall lease, for me, but on the other side, I'm glad that it's there for sure. I don't necessarily think it's a bad product. If it was half the price for what I need, it would be a no-brainer, but it's not. So it is a brainer. Moving on to our next question.
Unfortunately, the next question is related to future products. This is not the appropriate venue to cover that, so we're going to have to skip it.
Can't you just read it so we know what it was? I'd be interested to know what it involved, what future product question was asked. That would be nice to know. But okay, I suppose.
AI agents are everywhere, automating tasks and making decisions at machine speed. But agents make mistakes. Just one rogue agent can do big damage before you even notice. Rubrik Agent Cloud is the only platform that helps you monitor agents, set guardrails, and rewind mistakes, so you can unleash agents, not risk. Accelerate your AI transformation at Rubrik.com. That's RUBRIK.com.
You know what's wild? Most people are still overpaying for car insurance just because it's a pain to switch. That's why there's Jerry. Jerry is the only app that compares rates from over 50 insurers in minutes and helps you switch fast with no spam calls or hidden fees. Drivers who save with Jerry could save over $1,300 a year. Before you renew your car insurance policy, do yourself a favor. Download the Jerry app or head to jerry.ai/acast.
Let's go ahead and go on to the next question.
The question after that is, what are the present challenges in bringing Optimus to market, considering app control software, engineering hardware, training general mobility models, training task-specific models, training voice models, implementing manufacturing, and establishing supply chains?
Yeah, I mean, bringing Optimus to market is an incredibly difficult task. To be clear, it's not like some walk in the park. At some point, I mean, technically, Optimus can walk in the park right now. We do have Optimus robots that walk around our offices at our engineering headquarters in Palo Alto, California, basically 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So any visitors that come by, you actually you can stop one of the Optimus robots and ask it to take you somewhere, and it'll literally take you to that meeting room or that location in the building. So I don't want to downplay the difficulty of Optimus. It's an incredibly difficult thing. Especially, it's difficult to create a hand that is as dexterous and capable as the human hand, which is the human hand is an incredible thing. That the more you study the human hand, the more incredible you realize the human hand is, and why you need 4 fingers and a thumb. Why the fingers have certain degrees of freedom. Why the various muscles are of different strengths. The fingers are of different lengths, and it turns out actually that those are all there for a reason. And so making the hand and forearm, because most of the actuator, just like the human hand, the muscles that control your hand are actually primarily in your forearm. The Optimus hand and forearm is an incredibly difficult engineering challenge. I'd say it's more difficult than the rest of, from an electromechanical standpoint. The forearm and hand is more difficult than the entire rest of the robot. But really, in order to have a useful generalized robot, you do need this. You do need an incredible hand, and then you need the real world AI, and you need to be able to scale up that production to have it be relevant, because it's not relevant if it's just a few hundred robots. But so you need to be able to make Optimus robots at volumes comparable to vehicles, if not significantly higher. So if you're trying to make 1 million or something per year, trying to make 1 million Optimus robots per year, that manufacturing challenge is immense, considering that the supply chain doesn't exist. So with cars, you've got an existing supply chain. With computers, you've got an existing supply chain. With a humanoid robot, there is no supply chain. So in order to manufacture that, Tesla actually has to be very vertically integrated and manufacture very deep into the supply chain, manufacture the parts internally, because there just is no supply chain. So this is the kind of thing where I'm like, if I put myself in the position of a startup trying to make a humanoid robot, I'm like, I don't know how to do it without an immense amount of manufacturing technology. So that's why I think like Tesla's in some almost a unique, I think unique position when you consider manufacturing technology scaling, real world AI, and a truly dexterous hand. Those are generally the things that are missing when you read about other robots, that they just don't have those three things. So no, I think we can achieve all those things, those three things, with an immense amount of work. And that is the game plan.
I actually think this is a good answer. This is a good old-timey Elon answer. You know, we got details. Is it every single thing that, their challenge they're having with Optimus? No, but it's a good explanation. It gives us a little bit of insight into the company. I think that's fantastic. But then he continued to talk. So let's hear what he had to say.
You know, my fundamental concern with regard to how much voting control I have at Tesla is, if I go ahead and build this enormous robot army, can I just be ousted at some point in the future? That's my biggest concern. That is really the only thing I'm trying to address with this. So it's called compensation, but it's not like I'm going to go spend the money. It's just, if we build this robot army, do I have at least a strong influence over that robot army? Not control, but a strong influence. That's what it comes down to in a nutshell. Like, I don't feel comfortable building that robot army if I don't have at least a strong influence.
Then I would say don't do it. It's not, the juice isn't worth the squeeze, because you were a 54-year-old man. And as a 50-year-old man, almost 51, I don't do it. We both have less time in front of us than we do behind us. We are not long for this world. Don't build a robot army, because you won't always have control. Couple different reasons. One is the shareholders might vote you out. So no matter what you think, you just might be booted to the curb. Two, heaven forbid, and I don't wish this, but we are getting older. There is illness that could take us out of the game. Not necessarily kill us, but take us out of the game. And I don't want that for you. I don't want that for me. I don't want that for anybody, to be honest with you. But it's a reality of the world. So if you are concerned about this is a very short-term concern. So you will not have a proxy when you are dead or incapacitated in some way or ousted out of the company. If those things happen, you will not have a proxy for control. Like, yes, you'll own X amount of the company, but you won't be the CEO anymore. Just don't do it. Just don't do it. That's all I'm saying. It's okay. Tesla is a car company. Was a well-respected car company, in some circles still is. I think Tesla's a great car company. You don't have to be a robot company too. And if you feel as if for some reason you want to build this robot army and have control over it, which is a weird thing to say, to be honest. And I think I don't want to say no. I feel like he is referencing the fact that he's building robots that, are actually capable of taking up arms if somebody else decided to reprogram them. Also, that seems very far-fetched, but not impossible. But it's just don't do it. Or build your own company. Build your own company. You have so much money. Take $10 billion, build your own robot company, and own 100% of it, and then you can do what you want. Like, it doesn't have to be Tesla if this is something that's important to you. But the fact of the matter is, like, are you worried about it in the short term, or are you worried about it in the long term? Because if you're worried about it in the short term, and you're only concerned about what happens when you're breathing on this earth, then okay. I mean, I guess we can have a discussion about that. But after that, we're all dead, you don't have any control over that. So it doesn't really matter. I don't know. I feel like this is a very piss poor excuse. Excuse me. I don't usually have such strong language on this show. But this is a very poor excuse for the reason you need $1 trillion. Yeah. Okay. I've already gone through this. I'm pretty sure, because I went into a podcast coma the last time I had a podcast, and I haven't gone back to listen to it yet because I'm not sure if I made any sense. I've already talked about this, so I'm gonna let it go. But Elon should let it go too. Like, if this is something that concerns you, don't do it, because if there are people who will turn it into a robot army if they want to turn it into a robot army, and you won't have any control over it because, you're a tech bro, I'm a nerd on a podcast, and there are other people who are way more dangerous than we are if they really wanted such a thing. That's all. That's all I'm saying. Don't do it. I'm okay with it. All right. Let's go to the next question.
The next one, though, is, can you update us on the $16.5 billion Samsung chip deal in Taylor? Given the importance of semiconductors to autonomy in Tesla's AI-driven future, what gives you confidence Samsung can fulfill AI6 at Tesla's timelines and achieve relatively better yields and cost versus TSMC?
Okay, so I'm gonna give quite a long answer to this question because I have to unpack this question and then answer the unpacked version. So first of all, I have nothing but great things to say about Samsung. They're an amazing company, and Samsung, it is worth noting, does manufacture our AI4 computer and does a great job doing that. Now with the AI5, and here's I need to make a point of clarification relative to some comments I've made publicly before, which is we're actually going to focus both TSMC and Samsung initially on AI5. So the AI5 chip design by Tesla is, I think it's an amazing design. I have spent almost every weekend for the last few months with the chip design team working on AI5. And I don't hand out praise easily, but I have to say that I think the Tesla chip team is really designing an incredible chip here. This is, by some metrics, the AI5 chip will be 40 times better than the AI4 chip. Not 40%, 40 times. because we have a detailed understanding of the entire software and hardware stack. So we're designing the hardware to address all of the pain points in software. I don't think there really isn't anyone that's doing this, the entire stack, all the way through real world, calibrating against the real world where you've got cars and robots in real world. That, like, we know what the chip needs to do, and we know what, just as importantly, we know what the chip doesn't need to do. To sort of give you some examples here, with the AI5, we deleted the legacy GPU or the traditional GPU, which is it's in AI4, but AI5 does not have. We just deleted the legacy GPU because it basically is a GPU. We also deleted the image signal processor, and there's like a long list of deletions that are very important. As a result of these deletions, we can actually fit AI5 in a half reticle, and with good margin for the traces from the memory to the trip, the Tesla trip accelerators, the ARM CPU cores, and the PCI X the PCI blocks. So this is a beautiful chip. I've poured so much life energy into this chip personally, and I'm confident this is going to be a winner, next level. So it makes sense to have both Samsung and TSMC focus on AI5. And so even technically the Samsung fab has slightly more advanced equipment than the TSMC fab. These will both be made in the U.S. One TSMC in Arizona, Samsung in Texas, but it's we're going to make, starting off, just to be confident of having our goal, explicit goal, is to have an oversupply of AI5 chips. Because if we have too many AI5 chips for the cars and robots, we can always put them in the data center. So we already use AI4 for training in our data center. So we use a combination of AI4 and NVIDIA hardware. We're not about to replace NVIDIA, to be clear, but we do use both in combination, AI4 and NVIDIA hardware. And the AI5 excess production we can always put in our data centers. NVIDIA keeps improving. The challenge that they have is that they've got to satisfy a large range, a lot of requirements from a lot of customers. But Tesla only has to satisfy requirements from one customer. That's Tesla. That makes the design job radically easier, and means we can delete a lot of complexity from the chip. I can't emphasize how important this is. So when you look at the various logic blocks in the chip, as you increase the number of logic blocks, you also increase the interconnections between the logic blocks. So you can think of it like just highways. Like, how many highways do you need to connect the various parts of the chip? And especially if you're not sure how much data is going to go between each logic block on the chip, then you kind of end up having giant highways going all over the place. It becomes an almost impossibly difficult design problem, and NVIDIA's done an amazing job of dealing with almost an impossibly difficult set of requirements. But in our case, we're going for radical simplicity, and the net effect is that I think AI5 will be the best performance per watt, maybe by a factor of 2 or 3, and the best performance per dollar for AI, maybe by a factor of 10.
The proof is certainly in the pudding. I don't have anything really to say on this. I thought it was interesting. Hopefully, it works out the way he says it's going to work out. I think that's cool. And let's move on to the next question.
Instead of trying to replace hardware 3 with hardware 4, why not give an equal incentive to trade in for a new vehicle?
Yeah, we've not completely given up on hardware 3. However, over the last year, we've offered the customers the option to transfer FSD to their new vehicle, which at times we've been running some promotions. If they got FSD, they can get better preferential rates. So we've been definitely taking care of this, but we do want to solve autonomy first, and then we'll come back with a way to take care of these customers. These customers are very important. They were the early adapters. For what it's worth, my daily commuter is a hardware 3 car, which I use FSD on a daily basis. So we will definitely take care of you guys.
Great.
And
Thank you.
in addition, once the V14 release series is fully done, we are planning on working on a V14 Lite version for hardware 3, probably expected in Q2 next year.
Okay. Man, it's been this. I've done this over multiple days because this is a really long one. I think I covered the 14 Lite. I think I said it was 14 plus, but 14 Lite information. I'm glad to hear that Tesla is still planning on taking care of hardware 3, folks. We'll wait to see what that actually means. Let's go ahead and move on to the next question, which we are now on to analyst questions, done with retail investor questions.
The first question comes from Emmanuel at Wolf. Emmanuel, please go ahead and unmute yourself.
Great. Thanks so much. Hi, everybody. So, Elon, you talked about expanding production of vehicles as fast as possible now that you have confidence in the unsupervised autonomy. How should we think about that in the context of your existing capacity of 3 million units? Is that where you're hoping to get volume to? What sort of timeline are we talking about? And would this require, some level of boosting or incentivizing demand? Like, would this basically be prioritizing volume over near-term profitability given the longer-term opportunity?
Well, our capacity isn't quite 3 million, but it will be 3 million at some point. Aspirationally, it could be 3 million within. We could probably hit an annualized rate of 3 million within 24 months, I think, maybe less than 24 months. Bearing in mind, there's an entire supply chain, like a vast supply chain that's got to also move in tandem with that. But we're gonna expand production as fast as we can, and as fast as our suppliers can sort of keep up with it. And then we're going to think about where do we build incremental factories beyond that. The single biggest expansion in production will be the Cybercab, which starts production in Q2 next year. That's really a vehicle that's optimized for full autonomy. It, in fact, does not have a steering wheel or pedals, and is really an engineering optimization on minimizing cost per mile, for fully considered cost per mile of operation. So that's for our other vehicles, they still have a little bit of the horseless carriage thing going on, where obviously if you've got steering wheels and pedals and you're designing a car that people might want to go do fast acceleration and tight cornering, like high performance cars, then you're going to design a different car than one that is optimized for a comfortable ride, but doesn't expect to go past sort of 85 or 90 miles an hour, and it's just aiming for a gentle ride the whole time. That's what Cybercab is. So it's. Do I think we'll sacrifice margins? I don't think so. I think the demand will be pretty nutty. Here's the killer app. Really, what it comes down to is, can you text it? Can you text while you're in the car? And if you tell someone, yes, the car is now so good, you can be on your phone, and and text the entire time while you're in the car, it's anyone who can buy the car will buy the car. And a story. So that's what everybody wants to do. In fact, not everyone wants to do it. They do that. And that's why, in fact, the reason you've seen like there's been an uptick in accidents pretty much worldwide is because people are texting and driving. So autopilot actually dramatically improves the safety here, because if somebody's looking down at their phone, they're not driving very well. So that's really the game changer. And we do see, like, at this point, I feel, essentially 100% confident. I say not essentially, 100% confident that we can that we can solve unsupervised full self-driving at a safety level much greater than human. So we've released 14.1. We've got a technology roadmap that's, I think, pretty amazing. We'll be adding reasoning to the car. Our world simulator for reinforcement learning is pretty incredible. Like our when you see it, the Tesla reality simulator, you can't tell the difference between the video that's generated by the Tesla reality simulator and the actual video. It looks exactly the same. So that allows us to have a very powerful reinforcement learning loop to further improve the Tesla AI. We're going to be increasing the parameter count by an order of magnitude. That's not in 14.1. There are also a number of other improvements to the AI, just that are quite radical. So it's this car will feel like it is a living creature. That's how good the AI will get with the AI4 computer. This is before AI5, and then AI5, like I said, is by some metrics 40 times better. Let's just say safely, it's a 10x improvement. So it might almost be too much intelligence for a car. I do wonder, like, how much intelligence should you have in a car? It might get bored. Actually. And then one of the things I thought, like, well, if we got all these cars that maybe are bored, well, while they're sort of, if they are bored, we could actually have a giant distributed inference fleet and say, like, well, if they're not actively driving, let's just have a giant distributed inference fleet. At some point, if you've got like tens of millions of cars in the fleet, or maybe at some point 100 million cars in the fleet, and let's say they had at that point, like, I don't know, a kilowatt.
Hey, that's this show that you're listening to. A kilowatt. Well, kinda.
Of inference capability of, high performance inference capability. That's 100 gigawatts of inference distributed with power and cooling with cooling and power conversion taken care of. So that seems like a pretty significant asset.
Yeah, but it's not, like Mercedes right now, and I think BMW currently have level 3 driving where you can text while you're driving on certain roads. Which is, you could say, well, that's not what Tesla's planning on. Tesla's planning on any road. You could do that, but you haven't done it yet. So this is what these companies have done. As a matter of fact, GM is planning on doing this in 2028 with the Cadillac IQ, Escalade IQ, which is, $106,000 for that car, which is not cheap, fairly expensive vehicle. Honda was the first vehicle in Japan to get approved for level 3 autonomy, and it's only one vehicle, and I think it's got to be leased. Zeekr has partnerships with Waymo. There's some other companies out there that have done this. So if you think that, being able to text and while you're driving, and do it safely is the reason why you're going to sell more cars, there are other companies out there that are doing that. I mean, technically we could count the robotaxi, but in reality, it's kind of a different beast, the robotaxi. And, before I get it's all built on the same hardware, I don't think it is. I think Tesla's juicing the robotaxis, and I'm fine with it, by the way. I don't have a problem, but I don't think these are cars that are explicitly, just running off the line and they're like, that one's a robotaxi, and they take the grinder and spell robotaxi in the side of the car with the cool grinder look and then move on. I don't think that's happening. I think there's probably more that goes into a robotaxi car than what Tesla is telling us. All right, let's go on to our next one. Next question.
The next question will then come from Dan from Barclays.
Hi, good evening. Thank you for taking the question. Elon, I know that Tesla's really focused on with Master Plan 4 bringing AI into the physical world. And I think we've seen over the past, this willingness for Tesla to engage and go into new markets, new TAMs. So when you think about the growth prospects, how do we define the areas that are really within Tesla's core competency versus where do you draw the line for markets or AI applications that are outside of Tesla's core competency?
Actually, I'm not sure what you mean by AI applications outside of Tesla's core competency. But and we kind of we didn't have any of these core competencies when we started, So it's like we had zero core competencies, total competency of zero, actually. So you can think of Tesla as like, I don't know, a dozen startups in one company. And I've initiated every one of those startups. So it's we didn't used to make battery packs, so stationary battery packs, but now we do. We make them for the home, make them for utility scale with Powerwall Megapack. We created the supercharger network globally. No one else has created a global supercharger network. In fact, that North American supercharger network is so good that basically every other manufacturer in North America has converted to our standard, and uses the Tesla supercharger network. But if it was so easy, why don't they just do it? And the chip design team, started that from scratch. The Tesla AI software team was started from scratch. I literally just say, hey, we're going to start this thing. I post it on Twitter, now X, and then join us if you'd like to build it. In fact, Ashok was, I believe, the first person I interviewed for the Tesla Autopilot team, which we now call the Tesla AI software team, because it is the AI software team. So it's core competencies created while you wait. Optimus at scale is the infinite money glitch. It's like it's difficult to express the magnitude of, like, if you've got something if Optimus, I think, probably achieve 5x the productivity of a person per year because it can operate 24/7. It doesn't even need to charge; it can operate it tethered, so it's plugged in the whole time. That's why I call it like a future of sustainable abundance, where working will be optional. There's a limit to how much AI can do in terms of enhancing the productivity of humans, but there is not really a limit to AI that is embodied. That's why I call it the infinite money glitch.
One thing which I'll further add is, people forget, like, our first iteration of Autopilot was 10 years back. So, Elon had started this way back in the day.
We've got the tweets to prove it.
Exactly. And then even on the Optimus side, right, as much as people think, okay, this is a new thing, I still remember, was it 4+ years back, we were in a finance meeting with Elon, and Elon said, hey, our car is a robot on wheels. And that's where we started developing. In fact, most of the engineering team, which is working on Optimus, has come from the vehicle side. And that's why, when we talk about manufacturing prowess, we have the wherewithal because the same engineers who worked back in the day on drive units are working on actuators now. So that's where we can do, if there is any company which can do it at scale, that is going to be us.
But we also have actually added a lot of new engineers as well to the team. So there's actually a lot of the credit for the Optimus engineering is actually also new engineers, many of them that are just out of college, actually.
Yeah.
So the Optimus engineering team is a very talented engineering team. I'd say wow, actually. So, and the Optimus reviews at this point are that there's the engineering review, and then there's the manufacturing review being done simultaneously with an iterative loop between engineering design and manufacturing. Because then we see we design something and we say oh man, that's really difficult to make. We need to change that design to make it easier to manufacture. So we've made radical improvements to the design of Optimus while increasing the functionality, but making it actually possible to manufacture. I'd say Optimus 2 is almost impossible to manufacture, frankly. But to Vaibhav's point, we've gone from a person in a robot outfit to what people have seen with Optimus 2.5, where it's doing kung fu. It was Optimus was at the Tron premiere, doing kung fu, just out in the open, with Jared Leto. There wasn't nobody was controlling it. It was just doing kung fu with Jared Leto, at the Tron premiere. You can see the videos online. Actually, the funny thing is, a lot of people walked past it, thinking it was just a person. Even though with Optimus 2.5, you can see that it has a waist that's 3 inches wide, which is obviously not a human. But the movements were so human-like that a lot of people didn't realize they were looking at a robot. So, and what I'm saying is Optimus 3 will be a giant improvement on that, and made at scale. But like I said, a very difficult thing. The Optimus sort of engineering and manufacturing reviews, and there's the Friday night meeting with Optimus, which sometimes goes till midnight, and then my Saturday meeting is the Saturday afternoons with the AI 5 chip design team. So those two things are crucial to the future of the company.
So I believe what the analyst was asking is where are the lines at when something touches AI and Tesla's going to get involved? Because you only have so much money. You only have so much manpower. You only have so much time. And you can throw more money and more manpower at something, but that doesn't necessarily mean you're going to regain time. If you've ever worked in any sort of manufacturing, I used to work for Micron and building motherboards, and our lines would occasionally be down for long periods of time because there was something that happened somewhere in the process that created a bottleneck, or a machine would go down, or any other variety of things could happen. Maybe people were, we had a lot of people out sick that day or whatever. There's reasons, right? So you can't just spend infinite money and infinite time on something. So I think it's more of a question of where are Tesla's priorities as it pertains to the energy business, the car business, the robot business, the other businesses that they have inside of it. Because he said they have X amount of startups, and Elon's had a hand in all of them or implementing all of them, which we can say that that's true, except for the very beginning. Let's give a little credit to Mark Tarpanian and Martin Eberhard for starting Tesla. Elon was an early investor, but let's give some credit to the two guys who actually started the company. Anyway, I felt like this answer while not technically wrong, was just kind of went way off topic. You know, it's like an aging rock star that tells the same stories in every interview, every TV, news interview, TV interview, podcast interview. It's all the same stories, right? We've heard the hits. Let's move on to the next question.
Great. And Dan, did you have a follow-up?
Yeah, I think just as a related, maybe you could just talk about to what extent are the AI efforts at Tesla and XAI complementary, or are they just different forms of AI? Maybe you can just help distinguish for the audience. Thank you.
Yeah, there are different forms of AI. So the the XAI sort of Grok is like a giant model that you could not possibly squeeze Grok onto a car. That's for sure. It is a giant beast of a model. It's with Grok, it's trying to solve for artificial general intelligence with a massive amount of AI training compute and inference compute. So, for example, for Grok 5 will actually only run effectively on a GB300. That's how much of a beast that Grok 5 is. So, whereas Tesla's, models are, I don't know, maybe about less than 10% the size, maybe closer to 5% the size of Grok. So, yeah, they're really coming at the problem from very different angles. XAI and Grok are they're competing with Google Gemini and OpenAI ChatGPT and that kind of thing. So and some of it's complementary. I mean, for example, for Grok Voice, being able to interact with Grok in the car is cool. Grok for Optimus voice recognition and voice generation is Grok, so that's helpful there. But they are coming at it from kind of opposite ends of the spectrum.
Then what reason would Tesla have to invest in X? Now I'm the aging rock star playing the old hits. Anyway, let's get to the next question.
Just getting back to Austin, if you can remove the safety driver at year end, is the limitation in the Bay Area just regulatory, or is it kind of the market by market learning process? And I guess similarly in the 8 to 10 markets that you mentioned to get added, is the decision there to put a safety attendant in the passenger seat or the safety driver in? Is that like your step-by-step process to opening up a market, or is it really just the regulation in the individual market?
Well, I think even if the regulators weren't making us do it, we'd still do that as the sort of right sort of cautious approach to a new market. So just to make sure that we're being paranoid about safety, I think it makes sense to have a sort of either safety driver or safety occupant in the car when we first go to new markets to confirm that there's not something we're missing. Because all it takes is like 1 in 10,000 trips to go wrong, and you've got an issue. So it's just to make sure, like, is there some peculiarity about a city, like a very difficult intersection, or I don't know, something that's an unexpected challenge in a city for that 1 in 10,000 situation. I think we probably could just let it loose in these cities, but we just don't want to take a chance. And like what we're talking about here is maybe 3 months of safety driver in a new metro to confirm that it's good, and then we take the safety driver out, that kind of thing.
Okay, and then on FSD 14, it has a different feel than 13, and it's also, I think, a little different than what it feels like in Austin. Is it basically different development path that you're doing in terms of the robotaxi stuff versus what you're dropping to the early adopters? And when you push these new builds, is it that you're looking for notable improvements in intervention rates,
Yeah.
or is that largely solved and it's more about adding the functionality like the parking, the drive modes, or just the overall comfort?
No, the first priority when we release a major new software architecture for Autopilot is safety. So it starts off with safety, obviously safety prioritized, and then we solve comfort thereafter, which is why I don't recommend people take the initial version like that's why I say most people should wait until 14.2 before they actually download version 14. Because by 14.2 we'll have addressed many of the comfort issues. The priority is very much safety first, and then thereafter the comfort issues. That's why most people, I'm like, it'll be a little it'll be safe but jerky, and we just need time to kind of smooth the rough edges, and solve for comfort in addition to safety with a major news Autopilot architecture change. But it really is. I mean, I know what the roadmap is for the Tesla real world AI, and at a very granular detail. Obviously, Ashok is leading that. I mean, I spent a lot of time with the team going, in like excruciating detail here on what we're doing to improve the real world AI. Like I said, this car is going to feel like it is a living creature, and that's with AI 4 before even AI 5.
Yeah, the roadmap is super exhilarating. It's so waiting so much release all the stuff we are working on in terms of what we ship to customers versus robotaxi. It's mostly the same. Obviously, customers have some more features they can choose the car wants to park in a spot or driveway or something like that, which is not super relevant for robotaxi. But there's only a few minor changes like those ones. But the majority of the algorithms and the architecture, everything is the same between those two platforms.
Yeah, but as I mentioned earlier, we'll be adding reasoning to I don't know, Ashok, is that reasoning in 14.3, maybe 14.4, something like that?
Yeah, or by end of this year for sure.
Yeah. So with reasoning, it's literally going to think about which parking spot to pick so it's going to say this is the entrance, but actually probably there's not a parking spot right at the entrance. If it's a full, if the parking lot is fairly full, the probability of an open parking spot right at the entrance is very low. But actually, what it'll simply do is drop you off at the entrance of the store and then go find a parking spot. But it's going to get very smart about figuring out a parking spot. It's going to it's going to spot empty spots much better than a human. It's got 360-degree vision, and it's going to, like I said, just it's going to use reasoning to solve things.
And putting that all inside the computer that has AI4 is the actual challenge. That's what the team is working on. Because obviously you can do reasoning on the server, that takes forever, but then in the car, you need to make real-time decisions. So putting all that into the computer that's in the car, that's the challenge.
Yeah, that's why I say I have a pretty good understanding of AI, the sort of the giant model level with Grok and with Tesla, and I'm confident in saying that Tesla has the Tesla AI has the highest intelligence density. When you look at the intelligence per gigabyte, I think Tesla AI is probably an order of magnitude better than anyone else. And it doesn't have any choice because that AI has got to fit in the AI4 computer. But the discipline of having that level of AI intelligence density will pay great dividends when you go to something that has an order of magnitude more capability like AI 5. Now you have that same intelligence density, but you've got 10 times more capability in the computer.
All right, that is all that we have for this episode. That was a long one. This one was, let's see, the earnings call came out on Wednesday. I started editing listening to it on Wednesday, started recording on Thursday, Friday, and I'm finishing today on Saturday. Now I had a lot of other things to do in there, but man, this was a beast of an earnings call. We are going to end this. You're going to hear the music and we'll fade out and all that stuff. And then you're going to hear an ad. Now, I do ads on this show. If you are a non-Patreon supporter, you have to listen to programmatic ads that are inserted automatically by Acast, not some random company, but by Acast. But you're going to hear an ad from the CFO and Elon as to why you should vote for Elon's pay package. And this has got to straddle quite a line, because there are rules about influencing shareholder votes, and I'm sure that this does not break those rules, otherwise they wouldn't have done it. But yeah, if you want to hear the ad as to why you should keep Elon around and vote him enough shares, because it's not about the money, is what they keep saying. It's not about the money. It's a compensation package, but he doesn't really get the money, even though he gets access to the money and he can take loans against it or sell his shares over time. But it's not about the money. It's more about the control. And I believe that there is truth to that. There is something about the control. However, yeah, what do you give somebody after they get $1 trillion in stock options or stock, however they decide to award it to him? What do you do the next time he wants to get paid or he wants control?
I want to take the time to talk about an extremely important vote, which is being held on November 6th. The meeting will shape the future of Tesla, and we are asking you, as our shareholders, to support Elon's leadership through the 2 compensation proposals and the re-election of Ira, Kathleen, and Joe to the board. Note that it is a team sport, and here at Tesla, the board is an integral part of the winning team. Shareholders are at the center of everything we do at Tesla, and our special committee has laid out a compensation package. Like Elon said, we don't even want to call it a compensation package.
Yeah, it's not. The point is, I just like there needs to be enough voting control to give a strong influence, but not so much that I can't be fired if I go insane. But and I think that sort of number is in the mid-20s approximately. As a company that has already gone public, we've investigated every possible way to how do you achieve increased voting control without is there some way to have like a super voting stock? But there really isn't. There is no way to have a super voting stock after you've gone public. But for example, Google, Meta, many other companies have this, but they had it before they went public, and so it sort of gets, I guess, grandfathered in. Tesla does not have that, so it's just like I said, I just don't feel comfortable building a robot army here and then being ousted because of some asinine recommendations from ISS and Glass Lewis who have no friggin' clue.
But you just said that you could be fired if you went crazy. So, I mean, one would presume that you would still be able to be fired if you started doing things that shareholders didn't like. So how does that change it?
I mean, those guys are corporate terrorists. And the problem, so let me explain the core problem here is that so many of the index funds, the passive funds, vote along the lines of whatever Glass Lewis and ISS recommend. Now, they've made many terrible recommendations in the past that, if those recommendations had been followed, would have been extremely destructive to the future of the company. But if you've got passive funds that essentially defer responsibility for the vote to Glass Lewis and ISS, then you can have extremely disastrous consequences for a publicly traded company if too much of the publicly traded company is controlled by index funds. It's de facto controlled by Glass Lewis and ISS. This is a fundamental problem for corporate governance because they're not voting along the lines that are actually good for shareholders.
And then what happens when you have one person who has an outsized control in the company? What does that mean? What does that look like? Especially when you're saying you don't want to be fired because you might have some activist investors, but you're also saying, well, I want to have enough control that if I, of this robot army, but if for some reason I go crazy, I can be fired. Where do those two things line up? Because they don't seem like they do. And I'm not disagreeing on the activist investors stuff, because I do think that is, I do think that exists, and I think that's annoying. But I don't know that that's any different than Tesla giving its own recommendation, even though some shareholders do not want that. It's all up to a vote. Let's go on with this. I didn't intend on breaking in, but here we are.
That's the big issue. I mean, that's what it comes down to. ISS Glass Lewis corporate terrorism.
Yeah, and I would say, the special committee did an amazing job in constructing this plan for the benefit of the shareholders.
I don't know if it's in the benefit of the shareholders, but it's definitely in the benefit of Elon Musk.
There's nothing which gets passed on till the time shareholders make substantial returns. So that's why, in the end, I would urge you to not only vote on the plan, but also vote on all the three directors because of their exceptional knowledge and experience. And literally, we at Tesla work with these directors day in, day out. I mean, there is not even a single day that one of the directors I haven't spoken to, or one of my colleague hasn't spoken to. And even the directors out here are not just reading out of PowerPoint presentations. They're actually working with us day in, day out. So again, I just urge you guys as shareholders to vote along the board's recommendation. Thank you, guys.
I'm going to surprise everybody and agree with Elon. Do not vote, if you're a shareholder, just the way that somebody tells you to vote. So don't vote the way that Elon's so-called corporate terrorists are telling you to vote, and don't vote the way that Tesla is telling you to vote. Vote the way that you think will make the most sense for the company going forward. Don't do what I want you to do. Don't do what anybody else wants you to do. Vote the way that you think will make Tesla the most successful. If that involves Elon being the world's first trillionaire, that's okay. But if that involves him not being it, that's okay too. Like their argument, it is not okay. Is not the point. Is not the thing that the thing that bothers me is not that Elon could have $1 trillion, even though I think that's a ridiculous amount of money to have. But it's that doesn't bother me. It's the stuff that goes around that. Like, these are corporate terrorists and they're holding us hostage. So vote the way that I want you to vote. Don't vote the way that you want you to vote. Because if they said this is a great deal and you should absolutely 100% vote for Elon's pay compensation package, he wouldn't say boo about it. I had to re-record this last part because I said he wouldn't say bleep about it. But anyway, it's because I'm upset. Like, vote the way that you think will make Tesla successful. Don't listen to, listen to people, take people, listen to what people have to say, and then vote the way that you think would be the best option for Tesla. Because what the company is telling you, what Tesla is telling you to do, is no different than what these corporate terrorists, as Elon calls them, are doing. It's the same thing. So I don't know what would Tesla, if these companies, organizations are corporate terrorists, what is Tesla? Just a terrorist organization too? Like, that doesn't make any sense. I think those are loaded words, and they're loaded on purpose. So anyway, all right, everybody, that is it for me. Have a happy weekend.
AI agents are everywhere, automating tasks and making decisions at machine speed. But agents make mistakes. Just one rogue agent can do big damage before you even notice. Rubrik Agent Cloud is the only platform that helps you monitor agents, set guardrails, and rewind mistakes, so you can unleash agents, not risk. Accelerate your AI transformation at Rubrik.com. That's RUBRIK.com.
Change isn't coming. It's already here. Commerce is going digital, and tax complexity is multiplying. Tax rules evolve, rates shift, data floods in. Vertex connects it all. A global tax compliance platform powered by tax-ready data and intelligent systems. Smarter tech, continuous tax compliance, built-in confidence. Learn more at vertexinc.com.
Hey, it's Maya and Sim from the Girls That Invest podcast. If you are an IT or security pro, you know managing devices, identities, and applications can feel overwhelming and honestly risky. That's where Trellica by 1Password comes in. It helps conquer SaaS sprawl and shadow IT by discovering every app your team uses, managed or not. With pre-built app profiles, you can assess risk, manage access, and even optimize your software spend. Plus, it simplifies onboarding, offboarding, and compliance, all while cutting costs by eliminating unused licenses. Take the first step to better security for your team. Learn more at onepassword.com/special offer.